Our next talk is Breakthrough Innovations, what will catapult India into a global product innovation hub. This talk will cover futuristic AI technologies with diverse applications for local and global adoption. Our speaker is Nivruti Rai. Nivruti Rai is the country head of Intel India. She believes in the axiom, women can code. She has been with Intel for over 2 decades and has served in several senior positions across US and India. She holds a Bachelor's of Science degree from Lucknow University and an MS degree in Electrical Engineering from Oregon State University. Nivruti believes that concerted efforts are needed to ensure the participation of women in the workforce. May I request Nivruti to come on the stage, please. Thank you, Nivruti. Your mic. You need the mic?
So very good afternoon, everyone. You know, this introduction doesn't excite me or you. Let me tell you what will excite you and keep your adrenaline going so high that none of you would want to take a snooze. It's a pretty difficult time to stay awake, around 3 p.m. Everybody wants a nice cup of tea or coffee. So let me just introduce myself. I want to tell you that, Saif here told me there are about 1,200 people here, and about 80% of them are from IIMBue. They are alumni of IIMBue. Also, you just heard Professor Kumar said that, IIM graduates are neighbor's envy, owner's pride. Indeed, you are. And I want to salute each and every one of you, because after I finished my BSc in Lucknow, I tried to write an exam and get into IIM. I could not. So each and every one of you beat me. And then when I didn't get into the IIM, I said, okay, let me do more engineering, and went to United States. So kudos to all of you, so proud. And I'm really looking forward to you guys doing wonders. You already have. I will share with you some data which makes me believe that our managing graduates, our marketing graduates are doing fantastic. Who needs to do a little bit more is us as engineering graduates. So that is my introduction, guys. And if this adrenaline cannot keep you awake, nothing can. You, each and every one of you, are gems for the country. I am supposed to be, making my presentation, but I am allowed a few questions. So I'm perfectly okay if you like to stop me in the middle and ask a question. But let's flow and make sure that, I am able to finish my presentation on time. Now, this very first slide is a very interesting one. What it says is, each one of us, one here, the number 1 here stands for the amount of work each and every one of us can do daily. What the 0.01 saying, add to your capability just 1% more efficiency. And over the year, you will end up doing 37.8 in terms of value. 1% more efficiency, either through innovation or automation, can make you deliver significantly more. On the other hand, if you lose that 1% efficiency, for the entire year, you end up producing almost nothing. That's how important increasing your efficiency, growing each year, driving more value is for all of us. Now, who would know better than you guys the revolutions that we went through? The Industrial Revolution 1, 2, 3, 4, where we drove a lot of mechanization, where we drove a lot of assembly line innovations, where we worked on robotics. But what's happening now? What is happening now is digitalization. And I will tell you, it's quite unfortunate that post-1700s, India has been lagging in every single revolution, all the way till now. If you look at We are about 17% population of the world, and our contribution to the GDP is around 2.6. That tells us, forget about the purchasing power parity. Economists have, ways to show that, we are better than what we really are. They are even masters of statisticians. I believe we have significant more work to do. We have to be at least generating 17% of the world GDP, if not more. In order to do that, we need to be driving the Industrial Revolution 4.0. It's about digitalization. It's about data. It's about creating data. It's about storing data. It's about transmitting data. It's about analyzing data. And finally, creating value out of the data. And I believe, forget about the infrastructure and roads. Those highways can stay behind. Of course, we're trying to work and fix the Bangalore roads. But forget about the infrastructure highways. Let's lead in the digital highway. I also want to tell you that the areas which are very, very significant in winning the Industrial Revolution 4.0 will be in the space of consumer, health, finance, retail, a lot of engagements with the government, energy, transport, you name it. Two areas that are very, very dear to me is in the area of health and the other in the area of how can we save lives of people that die due to mistakes made by people themselves or due to mistakes that happen because of the poor roads. Those two are areas which me as Intel India, is really working and striving to improve in India. I will tell you, in the health space, imagine if the computers can better diagnose problems that we have. Breast cancer is consuming lives of so many people. Diabetes. So many areas that we look at, compute can help. While these mega challenges of landing a man on Mars is important, but not as important as some of these innovations which translate into value for us as human lives. We are also looking at how do we look at compute to avoid road accidents. These are the two projects, compute for health and compute for reducing road accidents is the one that I'm very heavily interested in and driving. I also believe that AI as a technology will be ever pervasive. AI, compute, storage, and the logic that is required will be able to help us drive medical solutions. Will also be able to help us drive road safety. So some of these areas, each and every one have to think and think big. It really bothers me when we get happy about, oh, my Jugaad did this. Jugaad is a passe. Jugaad is temporary. What we need to think is think big. Think in the areas where we can impact humanity of the world. We have produced out of India. Microsoft head Satya Nadella. We've produced Sundar Pichai, and you name it, there are so many Indians that are leading world organizations. I am sure in this room, there are so many capabilities of people who can drive innovations for the world, who can think big. And I will tell you, us as managers, since a lot of you are management graduates, management leaders, I will tell you, you think of a problem that we need to solve as leaders. And I will tell you, us as technologists will make it happen. Many a times, the problems with the technologists, like me, face is what should I work on? Where is the biggest value? How do I get my 37.8 instead of a almost 0? That's where we need to think, but think big. And across these industries, we have to think of product innovations. So far, our country has focused on, providing services, providing, human capital, providing, software solutions, that to application-level software. We need to think, how do we create products out of software? We need to think how we created products out of our hardware and systems, and we also need to think, how do we come up with use case innovations? A little bit about India. India has, in the year early 1950, 54% of our GDP was coming from agriculture. Today, it's about 13–14%. I will tell you, in about 1800, United States had 40% of its people working on farms, agricultural economy. Today, 2%. 2%. It's not that Americans started eating less. It's not that fewer people are eating. It is that a lot of innovation has happened. As a result, productivity has increased. If you look at, in case of India during the 60s, 80s, a lot of nationalization happened. And why this is important is, study our GDP. What happened during 1947, 60s, 90s, 2000s? What needs to happen now? Any of these engagements did not cause us to lead the Industrial Revolution. That is why I have listed here that we need to change. We need to think different. If we want to be leaders in the Industrial Revolution 4.0, which is all about data, we need to drive change. We need to drive change across various different verticals that I talked about. Health, agriculture, entertainment, automotives. What are some of the leading technologies? The leading technologies, some of them are listed here. Few that I would like to talk about is blockchain and AI. Why? I want to talk about blockchain and AI because I told you that Industrial Revolution 4.0 is about data. It's about digitalization. So why AI? AI because what do you do with a large amount of data? I was recently, in meeting a few governments, and UP government told me, oh, Nivruti, we have terabytes of data. But believe me, half of their data was junk. But I said, okay, great. What are you doing with the data? Oh, our data centers are very archaic, very old, not doing much. I said, okay, the first thing we need to look at is weed out all the noisy data. Second, annotate. What annotation means? Oh, this data has the name of the employee, the skills of the employee, the project that this employee has worked on, it needs to be annotated. Once it's annotated, then we have to build a model. Just to show of hands, how many of you have used Excel in your daily lives? My expectation is almost everyone, right? Excel is a pervasive tool. I'll tell you, tomorrow AI will be. And I will give you a relationship between Excel, AI, and blockchain. In Excel, many of us have looked at, I'm going to give you a very simple example that most everyone can understand because I know that we have a lot of management graduates here and math is not necessarily a forte. Not to say you're bad, but I could be better here. So let's say we have, in a classroom, some 50 kids, and we are measuring weight versus height. So y equals weight, and x equals height. you know that we can come up with an equation which says y equals mx plus c, meaning the height is somewhat related to the weight, or sorry, reverse. Weight is somewhat related to the height on an average. That's what y equals mx plus c is. Now, I told you in the UP government, we have data. We have annotated the data. Let's say I use that data, which has multiple factors, not just weight, but many things. Where did this person graduate from? What are his or her skills? What are the projects he or she has done? Can I tell you that I can actually build an AI model which shows the productivity of that person with respect to the very many variables I called about. So now I have an equation y equals mx plus c, but x is a vector. X has very many, x1, x2, x3, x4. That is model building in machine learning. The first part which I said, data annotation, etc., is the training of the machine learning. Then I have model building, which is y equals mx plus c. Lastly, if I use this equation to predict, a new entrant comes in, and I have all this information, I can actually roughly calculate the productivity. That's one use of machine learning. That's what is similar with Excel. Let me tell you blockchain. What blockchain does is nothing but store a bunch of data, which is like a table or a ledger, in a distributed form. Distributed form means rather than one table, the same data could be sitting in many different people and many different locations, and the minute you put everything together, then you get a complete table. So what happens with blockchain? You cannot make intentional, I don't want to call it mistake, but intentional change, a wrong change, because you have to align with everybody who has that data. So what happens? This becomes an extremely safe and secure way of storing data. So I'll tell you, in this digitalization, revolution, it's very important to have and understand some of these technologies. I called out blockchain, I called out ML AI. Another thing that I want you to focus on is this gig economy and 5G. 5G has to happen in India on time. I do not want us as India to be 3 years behind like we were in 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. We have to be on time, which means we have to work together. 5G is no longer technology evolution. Typically, the 4Gs and up to the 1G meant phone as the end user device. In 5G, your end device will be at least 100 to 1000x. The end device could be a car. The end device could be a thermostat. The end device could be a phone. So it is one of the sectors, telecom, which will be using 5G, but 5G has many verticals. So some of these technologies, guys, quantum compute. How many of you heard that China actually teleported photons 900 miles apart? We are behind. I don't believe we have any shortness of intelligence. You know, one of my Israeli leader, who was my mentor also, used to say, smart people are born everywhere. It's not that smart people are only born in United States and Germany. Smart people have been born in Martha Ali. We just want to work on the right things. And the right things could come from a lot of you. So what we need to do, guys, focus on technology and business model-driven innovations. So yeah, business model, I want to talk about this gig economy. The Ubers, the Olas, many such service-driven innovations could also come from India. I was thinking, look at Google, what it does. It's not paying you today, but it may pay later. It has the beta version of their tools made available to you. And what you're doing is providing use cases and helping identify bugs. That's crowdsourcing. That's almost a gig because there's no economy there. There's no money coming. Eventually it could. You know what Singapore is doing? Singapore is taking some of our health-related data and giving people money. That, hey, if you give me your data on your diabetes, I'm going to give you 2.5 Sing dollars. Why should we be giving our data to others? But as long as our people are getting the monetary fund, it's fine. But we should own our data, build innovations on our data, and feed to the economy of our country and drive the revolution. I really believe the ecosystem is very strong for us. Really, really strong. I have seen the change. I'm telling you, me as an MNC, in the past have struggled with government support. Not anymore. I'm getting support to drive engagements in 5G. There's a lot of infrastructure change required. There's lots of policy support required in AI. I'm getting that. Also, the tech ecosystem is burgeoning. The top 4 system integrators are housed in India. So we have all kinds of support that we need. We just have to have the right ambition, and we just need to use this ecosystem to power our ambition. Our ambition should be top of the world. I don't want to be one of those who are like, okay, 17% world population and less than 3% contribution to the economy. Now something that will encourage and, maybe boost your morale and ego a little bit more. And I mean it. India has not come out of the mindset which we started several hundred years ago. Several hundred years ago, our economy was dependent heavily on trade. You heard in your history books, you talked about barter system. Okay, I will give you my cow. I'll buy back some wheat. And then you evaluate, oh, is this the same value? Same thing is happening now. A lot of our mindset is trade-driven. Not so much innovation-driven. Not so much risk-taking. And I'm not saying there are no reasons behind it. Maybe because we struggled over the last few hundred years, we've become risk-averse. Let me save my food for today, and then I'm going to think, how can I create, instead of dal chawal, how can I look at eating paneer? We focus on dal chawal, that's it. What we need to do is be a little bit more risk-taking. Be that maverick who drives change. Peter Drucker said, for growth of any country, company, school, whatever have you, 2 things that matter. One is innovation. The other is marketing. All else is cost. So now, your ego boasting statement. You guys are doing amazing in terms of marketing. We guys need to do a little bit more in innovation. We want to be innovating at the same level you are marketing. So I really feel the engineering folks, the business folks who are driving, service-driven economy, who are identifying areas to focus on, need to work together to drive this change. I'm going to finish with, there's an economist who's based in United States. He would call out, and by the way, his name is David Aldrich. He said, for us to drive GDP growth, entrepreneurs, innovation, and public policy has to work together. Many of these things I already talked about. Let's add to it our ambition, and let's continue to milk on the business acumen Thank you very much, guys. I really, really feel honored to be part of, this celebration. Thank you. I'm not sure if I have time for any questions.
Sorry. I'm sorry, we are running short on time.
Okay, apologies
Sorry, folks.
if I ran over, but thank you very much for the opportunity.